Hours ahead of American President Mr. Biden's visit to Poland, the Polish ambassador to India, Mr. Burakowski, joins us. Adam, welcome to Times Network, and thanks for speaking to us. As you and I speak, Russian tanks are operating within the miles of Polish territory. There have been explosions almost next to the Polish territory. And the situation obviously is getting bloodier, even if there's a stalemate right now. Are you a concerned man?
We are concerned from the day one. On the day one of the Russian invasion, we strongly condemned the Russian invasion in the most severe terms, not only Poland, but all the countries of the European Union, many other countries from all around the world, all the NATO countries, and the majority of the international community strongly condemned the Russian aggression. We are absolutely against the Russian aggression. We see what is going on. The Russian troops are still invading, and they are killing civilians. They are bombarding the civilian targets in Ukraine, and they are committing many crimes. In Mariupol, they are just destroying the whole city, and we are supporting Ukraine all the way. We provide the ammunition, the weapons. We provide humanitarian aid, and we want this war to be stopped immediately. The Russian forces have to withdraw, and Russia has to pay the reparation of this whole conflict caused entirely by Russia. This was a Russian decision to invade. We are against it, and we are supporting Ukraine. We stand with Ukraine. And also, Poland received already more than 2 million, more than 20 lakh refugees from Ukraine. We are receiving more and more every day. We are open for our Ukrainian friends, and we understand what is being subject of foreign aggression. We have suffered this during the Second World War, when Nazi Germany and Soviet Union invaded Poland, and now we are helping Ukraine because not only we understand this situation, but we also know that this is a threat to international order, because Russia, by this invasion, broke all the possible international laws.
That brings me to a very important question, Ambassador, that the Russian troops are operating, and you are a NATO country. You are also a member of the European Union. As of now, unfortunately, fortunately, the bombs have restricted themselves to the Ukrainian territory. I mean, they have not gone into the NATO territory. But they have been close, I mean, some miles away from the Polish territory by all reports that we read. And in this kind of hypersonic weapons being used and most advanced weapons being fired, things can go out of hand very, very quickly. How do you see this? I mean, if Russian aggression any which way gets into the Polish territory, how do you see this unfolding?
Poland is a member of NATO, and any aggression against Polish territory or territory of any other NATO members is an aggression against the whole alliance, which is a defense alliance. We will be defending all the NATO territories with the strongest possible reaction, and NATO forces are much stronger than Russian. We are really feel threatened by this Russian aggression, and if there will be any incursion into Polish or another NATO member territory, the response will be very strong, because it will be like the act of war against the whole NATO pact, and also European Union.
American president, it's not as if nobody else has come, but American president himself, Mr. Biden, would be in Poland in just about a few hours from now, so 72 or 80 odd hours. What is it that a frontline country like Poland, NATO is fine, it's a big alliance, it's fine, but you are the frontline country. You share the borders, you share the territorial boundaries with Ukrainians, and as you said, millions of refugees are pouring in to your territory. What is it that you expect from United States of America during this crisis, when the President of America is visiting, and it's his first visit to any NATO alliance country during this entire crisis?
United States are our strong ally, and we count on their support. We have their support, and they are also supporting Ukraine. We are in the same pact, and we act together to support Ukraine, to support our borders as well. And the visit of the US President Joe Biden is very welcomed in Poland, and we see that as a sign of unity of NATO countries. And we are strong and committed. So this is a clear message that NATO acts as a united alliance.
What is your expectation as a frontline country? What would you expect from the American president when he's on your soil? You know, the conflict is right there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we want Russia to withdraw all the troops right now and to keep the independence and sovereignty of Ukraine and also its territorial integrity, including Crimea. This, what Russia did in 2014, was also against an international order. We never accepted that. We will never accept this. We want Ukraine to be a sovereign, independent country. We are committed to fight for this, to give any help to Ukraine that is needed. And also, we welcome the democratic changes that happened in Ukraine in the last years, because Ukraine was becoming more and more democratic. The freedom of speech was flourishing there, and also the level of life was increasing. And this was really a clear example that a democratic country like Ukraine was really developing much better than authoritarian regime of Russia.
Ambassador, that's your expectation from Russians. When the president, Mr. Biden, is there, what is your expectation from the Americans? Do you think that, as many in the world think, many in the world believe that, and there are strong votaries of this, that Americans need to do probably more? Do you think that Poland as a country also thinks that the Americans need to do more to somehow stall the Russian invasion or Russian-Ukraine war, whichever way you look at it? However, Americans have not done that so far.
We think that everybody should do more to stop the Russian aggression. We are doing everything we can. I know that our friends are also contributing to a large extent, but there are still some more possible sanctions that we should introduce, and we are working on them constantly with our friends from European Union, from United States and other countries, because this Russian aggression has to be stopped immediately, and Russia should really pay the price for this aggression.
Ambassador Burakowski, because I know that you speak very good Hindi, let me ask you a question in Hindi which pertains to India. बहुत सारे भारतीय छात्र स्टूडेंट्स जो थे वहाँ पोलैंड के थ्रू वहाँ से निकाले गए जो यूक्रेन में फंसे हुए थे, और काफ़ी सारे यूक्रेन के रास्ते से बाहर निकल कर के आए. आपकी सरकार जो अब तक कर चुकी है, उसके अलावा अब क्या कर रही है अगर कोई लोग वहाँ फंसे हैं जिनको निकालने में, और क्या भारतीय सरकार और आपके बीच में लगातार इसको लेकर के बातचीत चल रही है कि कुछ लोग जो वहाँ फंस रहे हैं उनको निकाला जा सके, और उन छात्रों को यहाँ लाने में आपकी सरकार ने और आपने किस तरह का रोल प्ले किया?
तो ऐसा मैंने कहा, अभी तक 20 लाख से ज़्यादा लोग यूक्रेन से पोलैंड में आए, और इन ग्रुप में तो एक इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स का ग्रुप था, कोई हज़ार लोग, और पोलैंड उन लोगों को, उन स्टूडेंट्स को हर मदद कर सहायता दे दिया, क्योंकि पोलैंड सहायता के लिए सदैव तत्पर, और वो लोग, वो स्टूडेंट्स तो ऑपरेशन गंगा में के द्वारा भारत लौटा है, और पोलिश सरकार और पोलिश समाज, पोलिश सोसाइटी भी पूरा मदद दे दिया है.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने आप लोगों को चिट्ठी लिख करके धन्यवाद किया पोलैंड ने जिस तरह से मित्रता दिखाई और इन बच्चों को वहाँ से बाहर निकालने में मदद की.
हाँ, और ये हमारे रिश्ते का एक बहुत अच्छा मिसाल है, क्योंकि पोलैंड और भारत भारतीय नागरिकों को मदद दिया और ये मिसाल ये दोस्ती का मिसाल है।
क्या अभी भी कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं जो भारत के वहाँ पे हैं, वॉर्सो में या वार्सा में अप्रोच कर रहे हैं भारतीय कम से कम वापस आने के लिए और देशों में जाने के लिए?
ये ऑपरेशन तो भारतीय दूतावास वार्सा में किया, हम नहीं। तो Indian Embassy in Warsaw coordinated all this action with Polish government and the Polish institutions. भारतीय दूतावास ने coordination किया पुलिस सरकार और पुलिस समाज के साथ ये पूरा ऑपरेशन।
Ambassador Burakowski, let me get back to the original crisis that we are grappling right now with. What do you think, as I said, you are a frontline country, what do you think is actually happening? Of course, you must be receiving a lot of intelligence, your government, etc. And people are coming into your territory. They are the biggest source of intelligence. You don't need any intelligence report. Ukrainians themselves are fleeing the cities and coming to your country. What do you think is the actual ground position right now? Is Russia in a position to quickly capture Kiev, or this war has now entered into a bloody stalemate, which many sources are now indicating?
What we observe is that Russia is now bombarding cities and aiming civilian targets and killing people, and also they introduce terror in the zones where they are occupying. And we are strongly against that. Kyiv is free, and even Polish Prime Minister, together with the Prime Ministers of Czech Republic and Slovenia, visited Kiev last week and gave support to President Zelensky. We support Ukraine all the way. We stand with Ukraine.
I was coming to that. Eastern Bloc Prime Ministers visited Kiev. What was their discussions with Mr. Zelensky like? Does Mr. Zelensky give any indication that there can be truce soon? Can Eastern European countries, the bloc of the Prime Ministers visited Kiev, can they play an important role?
We understand in which situation Ukraine is. Because Poland was also under Russian occupation, Soviet occupation, for 45 years, and we understand what is the Russian occupation, really, and we are absolutely against it. We wanted to show the support to the really brave nation of Ukraine in their fight against Russian imperialism.
Again, I'll come back to my original question, Ambassador, that Turkish interlocutors are now saying that there is a peace possible. There is a strong possibility that peace can be worked upon, and that we are looking at peace. Are you also getting that kind of sense from the ground and from your Prime Minister's meeting with Mr. Zelensky?
Ukraine is fighting very strong in a very hard battle to defend their independence and territorial sovereignty. We are helping them, we are supporting them, and we admire their fight for the freedom. Because Russia is against any freedom, Russia is against democracy, Russia is against freedom of speech, Russia is against any values that we share. So that's why we support Ukraine all the way.
But Mr. Burakowski, there is also a point of view which we must not overlook. Russia says that NATO's eastward expansion and nibbling on the territory that they traditionally have believed is their sphere of influence has actually caused all of this.
I don't believe in any sphere of influence. This is imperialistic vocabulary from 19th century, and if we believe in sphere of influences from 19th century, we cannot believe in this. This brought many, this kind of thinking of sphere of influence brought many disasters to India as well. India emerged as an independent country, as an anti-imperialistic country, and we are also anti-imperialistic. We don't believe in any sphere of influence. And I can also add that NATO, when it enlarged into East, it was the will of the societies. Of all the countries that joined NATO, all overwhelming majority of the citizens really wanted to be the part of Western countries, of Europe, of NATO, because we know that NATO and European Union bring only stability and peace and economical progress. This is what we believe. We were, before the fall of communism, we were part of the Soviet bloc against the will of our societies. So we were conquered by Soviet Union. And this is a very important point, that it was a military conquest that brought us under the Soviet influence and Soviet occupation. And our decision to join NATO was independent decision of independent democratic countries.
But Ambassador, Russian president quite clearly doesn't agree with. Mr. Putin says that it is the NATO's aggression and aggressive activities close to his territorial boundaries that has forced this kind of action, and Mr. Zelensky was not wanting to listen or get into any kind of rapprochement.
NATO is a defense ally, and I fully understand the will of Ukrainian society to join and to be more integrated with the Western countries of Europe, because these countries, our countries, we are stable countries, we are peaceful countries, we don't have any post-imperialistic sentiment like Russia does. Whatever Russians say is they undermine the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign country and can do whatever this country wants to do. And the Russians have to understand that Ukraine is an independent state and is not part of Russia. This is this post-imperialistic way of thinking that is prevalent in Russian elites.
Coming back to your country, you have got now millions of refugees. How do you propose to deal with them? You know, I mean, it must be tough, and it must be draining, quite a drain on your resources.
Yes, it is very tough. Because in just 2-3 weeks we accepted more than 2 million, 20 lakh people, but all the society are helping. Many people accepted the refugees in their homes, and there is an overwhelming sentiment we should help Ukrainians. All the possible organizations are helping Ukrainians, and also government is facilitating many things, like for example, from the day one, the Ukrainian children were accepted to Polish schools. And many Polish schools also in my district in Warsaw, where I live, already accepted several hundreds of Ukrainian children, and they integrate very well into society, because these are not only war refugees, these are our friends. We understand them, they understand us. And this is a really very good example, a positive example of people-to-people cooperation. I'm sure that it will prevail all this Russian aggression, all the Russian invasion, and all the Russian despotism and totalitarianism, because there's a spirit of freedom that we share.
But Ambassador Burakowski, eventually managing millions of refugees, India has experience of that. We have done that in 1971 war, precisely almost under the same kind of circumstances, is always a challenge. Would you think, or would you want, or would your government expect international community, particularly the West, your Western neighbors who are closer to you in terms of physical proximity, to do more so that this Ukrainian refugee crisis can probably not be such a shock for the Polish society?
So European Union helps us a lot, and also other countries of European Union, they are accepting many refugees as well. Several thousands go more to the West. And also I have to mention other countries that accepted refugees. This is Slovakia, Hungary and Romania. They also accepted hundreds of thousands of refugees, and also their societies are helping them. And I have to name the Republic of Moldova, which is not a European Union member country, but they also accepted several hundreds of refugees. And although this country is not the richest country in Europe, they are helping them with everything they have. So all Europe is helping Ukrainian refugees because we believe in Ukraine, we believe in Ukrainian sovereignty and territorial integrity. We believe that after the war, they will return to their country, they will build a normal, democratic, peaceful country.
That's society, that's civil society, that's refugee crisis, etc. etc. You're also a frontline NATO country, so you are also funneling in a lot of military aid to Ukrainians. And Russians have said that any foreign military aid would be seen as a legitimate target.
We are supporting the independent and sovereign country of Ukraine. Russia has nothing to do with this.
But what if Russia decides to bomb the convoys or the military supplies or the people training at the military facilities?
I mean, we are ready, and whatever they decide is not my. You can ask the Russians about it. What will be their decision?
Ambassador Burakowski, this conflict has now raged on for close to a month. I mean, the almost fourth week we are entering and all. How do you see, millions have lost their homes, shelters, towns have been destroyed. Thousands, if not more, have lost their lives, soldiers, combatants, non-combatants, children. How do you see this coming to an end?
This Russian aggression posed a major threat not only to security in Europe, but also to the global order. Russia is now being disconnected from many international systems, many international organizations, and its economy will suffer severe results of the sanctions. And we can see now that the Russian economy is going down, the ruble is going down, so it will rearrange the whole world. But also this is a threat to international law, because Russia broke all the possible international law that existed. And if we accept this, if we don't condemn this, it means that the role of international law is diminishing. We cannot accept the fact that some country is against all the international laws.
That's a valid point you make, and it's interesting that we come to sanctions. In the past, Russian oligarchs, Mr. Putin's coterie, Russian companies also have been sanctioned. This is not for the first time they are bracing the sanctions. Probably the might of the sanctions is far heavier than the last time or any previous time, and therefore there is immediate impact on the Russian economy. But do you think that sanctions alone will ensure that Russia stops in its tracks or stops somewhere in this war before a complete conquest?
It is not only sanctions. As I said, Russia is being ruled out from many international organizations, international systems, and also Russia pays a lot for this war. If Russia wants to spend their GDP on killing people, it's their decision, and not to making progress in their own country, but to kill people, to kill women and children. If they want to spend this money on this, they will not spend for another things that might be better for Russian economy. So it is Russia that is doing it to itself.
That's fine, but when we talk of sanctions, many European countries and many European companies are still dealing in energy with Russia.
We are trying to change this, and we are working on lowering the deal with Russia also on the energy resources.
There are American companies, like particularly in the petrochemical sectors, particularly the drilling companies, which are the big three. They haven't still sanctioned Russia. They haven't even actually pulled out of Russia. And there are many other companies also that have actually not gone the way many of their peers have.
I can give you an example of some companies from Western Europe that are still in Russia. They are being boycotted in Poland by the clients. Nobody goes to their shops, and the employees of these companies are just quitting their job because they don't want to be involved in this Russian aggression, and they don't want to pay for the killing of children and killing of innocent people.
So you think that there is certainly a popular backlash that will happen against those who are trading with the Russians, and that probably can force Russian hand in not going ahead with it?
Yes, it's already happening. I mean, Not only the boycott of Russian goods is everywhere, but also boycott of the companies that are still in Russia. I see it every day.
Ambassador Burakowski, you are a diplomat, and most of the diplomacy is about stopping these kind of things. First of all, preventing them to happen, and then if at all they happen, stopping them from them to spread and stop with the minimum damage possible. Wear your diplomatic hat, Ambassador, and try to see as to how negotiations can probably end this, particularly when, as I said, you have a large border, you are a frontline NATO ally, and much of the NATO operations and other activities are going through your country.
So Russia has to accept the fact that Ukraine is a sovereign country, and that no part of Ukraine is a part of Russia. Also, the territorial integrity of Ukraine is the thing that they should really accept and understand.
And what as they say, it takes two to tango. Something that the Ukrainians will also have to accept.
Ukrainians have every right to build their own independent country within their borders accepted by international community.
Thank you, Ambassador Burakowski. Thank you very much for speaking to us.